Hey there, so I wanted to show you this book that I read, and a lot of times people might think, is it worth reading books sometimes, or is it just a waste of time? And of course, it's not a waste of time, but depending on the book you're reading, it might be. But this book in particular actually is not a waste of time, in my opinion, to read it. And I'll just pull it up closer. It's called Agents of Treachery, and it's with all of these. It's a series of short stories put together in a collection of short stories of spy, specifically spy stories. And yeah, see, so never before published spy fiction from today's most exciting writers. So a lot of the people who are the authors who write spy stories, they all came together and wrote a big spy story book with different spy stories. So you're probably wondering, well, why am I talking about this book in particular? Like, there's so many books I could be talking about. Why this one? Well, I wanted to talk about this book because it has a lot of wisdom in it, and I'm about to release some spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, or if you're a person who cares about spoilers, then stop right now and just don't watch the rest of this video until you read the book. So just I'll give you the time to stop right now. Okay, but if you don't care about spoilers and if you don't plan to read the book anyways, even if I do give spoilers, I'm going to talk spoilers now. So basically, there's a big significance as to why I wanted to talk about this book. And a lot of times I thought, well, should I even share this wisdom? I mean, it's not going to help me. It's funny. I'm sharing wisdom from a book, but the act of sharing this wisdom will not help me in my personal life by sharing the wisdom with you. It might actually even like it might be actually foolish on my part because knowledge is power, right? So, anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and share some of the wisdom that I got from these spy stories with you. So, and I'm going to share that wisdom as we navigate through some other space agency websites because I love space. So, the one spy story in particular that I want to especially talk about, basically, there were spies, of course, and one of the spies was trained at a professional spy school, and she was given all the accolades in the world accolades and awards in the spy community. But she was terrible. Like she was a terrible, well, in the sense that she didn't do things by the book, right? And she wasn't so like smart in that sense, and she lost the company a lot of money. Well, the company was a front for the spy agency, but she lost money, she did this, she did that, etc., right? But what's interesting is that there was another spy who he was like real professional, like his languages were on point. Like he spoke more languages, he was more professional, he knew what he was doing clearly, right? And he was revered and he was considered a real like enemy in the spy community. But what happens is, so she, right? She's like she she ends up being thought of as like the ditzy girl, right? Who doesn't know what she's doing in the spy sense, right? Well, she's in her 20s, so she's a girl in her 20s, right? And but what happens is he ends up the one who gets killed. The guy that is really much smarter, supposedly smarter. I mean, when you look at the story now, right? How much smarter could he have been? I mean, who was the real smart person in that case? The woman who survived or the man who perished, right? So, I mean, he did things, but like he did things in the way that a typical spy would do things. That's how he was considered to be the better spy because he knew what he was doing. He was professional. He wasn't sloppy like she was. She was sloppy. She was like no one saw her as a threat. And that's why no one took her out because no one saw her as a threat. You see, the reason that she was able to fly under the radar, at least in terms of the enemy's eyes, right? So, for example, the Middle East, China, Russia, Japan, Germany, like all of basically America's enemies, right? France, all of America's enemies, she was able to basically, she wasn't even considered a threat. She wasn't because they thought she was just stupid, right? So it's like they never went after her because they didn't consider her to be a target, like to be like a high adversary that should be eliminated, right? On the other hand, he was he was becoming such an adversary, a smart adversary, a person who was a true competitor, like a true competitor to the enemies of America. He became such a smart adversary that they decided to take him out, right? And so you see, like in the wisdom of the story, right? It's kind of up in the air as to like really. I mean, people might still turn around and try to say that he's still the wiser of the two, even though he ended up dead. But I mean, in my opinion, sh regardless of if her languages were terrible, she had terrible accents on her languages, she lost money, she didn't know what she was talking about half the time, she basically let the enemies do whatever they wanted.